All right, so welcome to another episode of Is This Adulthood? I'm Ryan Durkee.
And I'm Taylor Blixt.
I was waiting for you to come in there. That will come more natural.
It will.
But I just want to start off by saying I appreciate you, Taylor. We always have our discussions before the podcast to talk about the episode, and it's nice just to like connect with a friend and talk openly to each other. And you always have such this like calm sense of self, and I just appreciate it. I love chatting with you, and I know no matter what, I can come to you and be like, "Hey, like this is on my mind. Like let's chat about it." And I feel like you feel the same way. So it's nice that even though now there's distance between us, we can't go meet up for wings and beer as easily as before,
Yeah,
that we can still connect. So thank you for that.
yeah, and I appreciate you too. And 100% I agree. I feel like I could come to you with many things, and I love your insight as well. I think you and I both have, of course, kind of like you were in social science in undergrad. I was in science. We're like two different programs, but
Yeah.
even though our lives in terms of career and professional life has like gone two different paths, we still can kind of intersect on that like commonality of just like life and living a life. And I guess that kind of goes into what this episode is a bit about, since now, I'm kind of co-hosting this for a bit. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for your blessing. I appreciate it. But I think as we were discussing about what we wanted to talk about, this is adulthood. That's what this podcast is. And I'd love to kind of delve into what is adulthood.
I love that. I love that. And this is all Taylor's idea coming up with this. I knew that we wanted to get more personal in the next episode. Since the last episode we recorded at like the start of August, when
Yeah.
we weren't even officially like taking over some co-hosting duties. And it was cool to get to do that. But now it's like, okay, well, now let's get to know Taylor. Let's get to know you and what your opinion on what is adulthood, because I feel like we're both going in stages where we're trying to figure that out and we're starting to figure that out, but there's still ways to go, of course. So I'm excited to chat about this.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to delve into it. And yeah, like you said, the last episode we recorded, I didn't know it was going to be a more regular thing, which I mean, I was really excited to kind of get that blessing, get this opportunity, because I love kind of like chatting with you. And then also like, I think some of the listeners and that episode that last came out on like men's mental health, there was a lot of
Yeah.
positive feedback on that.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I really value if other people's value like of what we're talking about. So it's always good to get that opportunity. And yeah, it's we have to start off with like, now I'm here. Let's talk about adulthood. That's what this podcast is about.
I love that. I'm so excited for this. And I think one of the biggest things that you talked about with what is adulthood is the fact that you can't let the little things take over your life, and things get busy with work or school or relationships or whatever it is. And
Mhm.
I know one of the things that you mentioned when we were talking about this before and with your notes and everything was the fact that you've got to focus on making sure that you're okay and that you're set. And what comes with that is whether it's meditation or
Yeah.
going on a 30-minute walk. And I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that. And like our listeners out there may be struggling, maybe they're feeling stressed, maybe they're dealing with family issues, maybe this is the first time that they're on their own, whether it's dating or living on their own. So I would love for you to chat a little bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, when I was kind of thinking about what to talk about this episode, there's like just like lifestyle things. And I think that, and like stressors, like you said, like people kind of like in adulthood, you're given with situations that you may feel uncomfortable in. It's new territory. There could be, yeah, like you may be taking care of a family member that's gotten a bit older, and now you have all these new responsibilities. So it's like, how do you kind of deal with that stress that you can get from any aspects of life, be it personal, professional, whatever it is?
Yeah.
And something that I've kind of gained to know, like from my program, naturopathic medicine, but just kind of trying to, my mother kind of passing down this more holistic lifestyle is with exercise and, kind of having more of a consistent set of exercise, because I think that people have this conception or like misconception in a way that exercise is only lifting weights. And of course it's not. You know, a 30-minute walk every day is just as good, and maybe
Yeah.
even a bit better, because there's cool science I'm not going to get into. I could, but kind of showing that, you know, walking and being outside in nature helps lower anxiety. So even if you have that forest path by your house, like I know here in Toronto where I'm located, you know, you got the Don Valley. There's actually a lot of cool little areas where the city has done a good job keeping nature there. So
Yeah.
doing things like getting out of your room, you know, getting out of your house, your space, even if it's on the street, you know, middle of downtown, wherever you may be, getting for that walk. And I like, that's a big thing, is like exercise. But the main thing is like, it doesn't need to be a weightlifting exercise. It can be as simple as like going for a 30-minute walk every day. And that really helps kind of, you know, gives us time to think too. And maybe even, you know, it's good to have that music, but maybe try that walk without a music and just try
Oh,
that. That's something that like I'll do sometimes, where, you know, don't have that music in and have kind of like time to think and really contemplate on things. And
yeah, and taking the nature and the sounds of people, and maybe even it makes me
yeah.
think sometimes, because it's like I sometimes even have my headphones on talking on the phone with someone, and even
Hmm.
if the call ends, sometimes I'll just keep them in because they're already there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like maybe people don't approach you, like especially like me where I'm in a new city. What if someone wants to approach me and say hi? Like you just never know. And you can almost, with your headphones in, you're kind of isolating yourself from the world. So I
Yeah.
like that idea of once in a while going out without your headphones in and just taking in nature and taking in your surroundings.
Doesn't need to be all the time. I'm not an absolute guy. I'm not telling you it needs to be that, but try it out. See how it kind of like makes you feel. And it's something that, yeah, it's something that you don't think about because we're just so used to our music. And I love my music, and I love having, I got over the head like headphones that are noise
Yeah.
canceling, and it's great. But the sound of nature, or you're going by a river, the sound of the river flowing and stuff, and yeah, just it helps you really embrace that whole experience of kind of like that relaxation to ultimately try and help reduce like that stress from whatever your adult life is experiencing, because there's a lot of it out there.
Do you have experience with that where you've gone out on a walk to clear your head and it's totally just put you in a whole other mood than what you were feeling?
I can talk about a really recent one. It was more so, you know, about a month ago, and it was when I was over a month ago, when I was kind of getting into this relationship that I'm now in, that
Yeah.
I talked a bit about last episode. It was prior to that episode. It was before we had started officially going out, and you know, we were kind of messaging, and I think I just got in my head about some things that I started
Really?
a little bit anxious, just like questioning. But again, it was like me in my own room by
Yeah.
myself in my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And instead of like messaging back and like maybe getting into something or making her think that I may be like, you know, like, why is this guy like being like not really confident as like he usually is? Or,
Yeah.
you know, I thought to myself, I'm like, wait, whenever I'm with her in person, everything's good. This may just be one of those anxiety ridden thoughts of like me just like, oh, is like, am I good enough? Is this all this stuff? Which happens to everyone. And so
Yeah.
instead of messaging her, I put my phone down and I went for a walk. You know, I live close to the Don Valley, luckily, like a path, and I went on this like forest walk, and it was good. Like, you know, I didn't message her that night, didn't need to, and like the next time we saw each other, it was great, and I was happy that, and I think that's something I've done in the past, is I would send that text, or I would get like really anxious about it, and you know, everyone like text can also be misconstrued. So like when someone gets like a lot of like anxious type text, like who knows what that's going to make them think about you. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's something that recently, and I'm like, I know my walks are good for me, so I need to like put my phone down. I don't need to say anything for the rest of the night. We've already had good conversations up to this point that nothing more needs to be said. Anything more is just me trying to like validate or trying to,
Get
yeah,
an answer sooner
get
than
an
what's
answer
it.
sooner.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir. I mean, I mean, I've told you that, it's kind of a trigger for me sometimes when people ignore me.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be, you know, in a message and you don't hear back from them for a while, whereas usually you hear back from them like pretty quickly. And that's been like throughout my life with like close friends and people that I'm dating. And I feel like I've gotten, I felt like I got a little bit better, but then once in a while things will slip in where it's like, oh no, like I'm feeling anxious because, you know, I didn't get a text back from my friend. And it's like, now, do they not like me? Are they ignoring me because they
Yeah.
don't like me? On the last time we met up or the last time we had a phone conversation, did I bring something up that they didn't like? Or, you know what I mean? And you start getting in
Yeah.
your head about it. And it's so true. It's like, sometimes you just got to step away from it and
Mm-hmm.
go on a walk. And if you keep messaging them, it could just push them away further. And trust me, I have to remind myself of this. I'm not like telling all of our podcast listeners that I'm perfect with that, because I'm definitely not. But it's interesting that you said that a lot of the time it's just you getting in your own head.
Yeah.
And I've seen that before. I think I saw it on Twitter or Instagram or something, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling like someone doesn't like you, because I definitely feel that way sometimes. And it's good to step back and ask who told you that. And then when you answer yourself, because most of the time it is you telling yourself, oh, they don't like me now, that then you can ask yourself like, where did that come from, kind of thing. And you start being like, okay, wow, like I made up this whole scenario in my head. And maybe sometimes you're right, maybe sometimes people do kind of drift away, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't help to keep pushing to get them back, because it just may push them away further. And again, I remind myself of this. But I think that that's really important to remember, because
Yeah.
especially if you have anxiety or you overthink things. And I know whenever I used to drink too much, I would think about that. Like if I drink and went out with friends and then the next morning I literally would be like, oh my gosh, like, did I say something like that makes me look dumb? Or did I push away my friends or whatever, right? And I would just be like, do they not like me now? And so then I stopped drinking. Like I'd have like one or two beers and I'd be fine the next day. But I still get anxiety sometimes if I feel like someone's ignoring me, because I start thinking like, why are they ignoring me? You
Yeah.
know? And you see them maybe post online and you're like, oh, they're posting online, but they haven't answered back my text and stuff. And it's like, it doesn't mean that they don't like you,
Nope.
right? It could just mean that other things are going on and that they were going to reply later, or that they know that the conversation is going to be longer than what they have time for right now, right? And I
Yeah.
have to remind myself of that. And it's a process.
I think no, but Ryan, I think we all do, and I think it's like it's completely fair, like what you're saying, and kind of going back to when those thoughts happen, why not go for a walk, or even meditation. And going for a walk in nature is a form of meditation. Everyone kind of like thinks, oh, I gotta sit still and breathe, and I can't do that. I know my mom, she loves to like stencil, like get those like books of like stencils, like black and white stencils, and she has a big thing of coloring pencils, and like she'll color in, and that's her form of meditation, right? She also likes yoga, but it's things of when stressors in our adult life, either interpersonal relationships, maybe even something going on at work where, hey, I just need to take a step back from this for like a bit, because or else I'm going to be overthinking it. Maybe I'll say or do something that I'll regret in the future. So it's about kind of like, as you grow up, you try and like get those tools to put in your toolkit
Yeah.
to, yeah, like yeah, meditation. And some other things I wrote down. This one I like. I think of Ellen DeGeneres, dance like nobody's around. That's an awesome one. I think like sometimes I do that in my room. No
Do
shame.
you? Do
Yes,
you dance in your
I will.
room?
I will dance. I don't go to the clubs anymore. University, as not university. It's a time of the past, but there was a good amount of going to bars and clubs. But what I loved about that the most was the dancing, and not like dancing with people. I just loved dancing on the dance floor, and I didn't know what it was about it. And Ellen DeGeneres is always like, "Let's dance." I'm like, honestly, it's a great way to like release
Yeah.
emotions and kind of like stress. But yeah,
Can you show us some of your moves right now?
that.
Come on, I feel like it's a good introduction to the listeners if they're watching on Instagram TV or YouTube.
I just like uh uh. I don't know, just like move with my arms a bit, and
I
I'll just
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. No, it's good. It's all about the confidence. I could tell that you had some confidence there.
Again, no shame, no shame. I'll try and try and do that for the listeners. So maybe they'll do it. Since I just did it on camera, you guys can do it not on camera.
Yeah, yeah. I want to dance. I'm like sitting in my bed, so I can't really like.
yeah, exactly. Uh,
No, but I know what you mean. It's like that sometimes makes you feel good, and just dancing to a good beat and like getting your heart rate up and dancing with people and the music and the lights. And yeah, we don't have it right now, but that's such a good point. It's like if you even hear a song in your car or something, like why
jam
not
out.
just jam out to it?
Hey,
I do that
I know you
sometimes.
do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
was gonna
great.
say, I feel like there's probably some Snapchats out there somewhere of me dancing and, someone else filming it, of course. No
Of course,
distracted driving.
no distracted driving. Nope, not here.
So what else do you have on your list there?
So another thing, and this actually comes from a professor of mine said literally within the first week of school. This is something that I know you're gonna love because everyone
Yeah.
does it. Is eating a meal without any distractions, so not
Oh,
watching TV. And I'll go into it a bit because if we're watching something like we usually do, and of course I always did it, but a meal can be like very nourishing, that's like important, healthy diet and stuff, but any kind of meal. But so let's say you're watching the news, and just like any news, there's bad news, like in terms of like, let's say you're talking like some kind of political thing, and there's like some kind of like event that just happened, or even a show that makes you really stressful. Well, you're becoming stressful. So, there's like the parasympathetic, which is the like rest, relax nervous system, and sympathetic, which is like fight or flight nervous system. And so when you're watching a show that makes you stressful, you're actually activating the sympathetic nervous system. And that is not the nervous system that helps you rest and digest.
oh,
So to actually like really digest, get all the nutrients out of our food, it's best to try and sit and eat without any distractions. In the new Canada's food guide, I know they mention eating with people. Of course, COVID being times like
yeah.
that isn't possible, but it doesn't mean that you can't eat and just, if you have a patio, eat outside, look outside in the horizon, kind of like enjoy, appreciate the nature around you, or just like being inside and, you know, even listening to music, anything that can like emotionally spark you or activate you, it can actually have an effect on our digestion. So that's
Wow.
another form of like meditation, is just eating without distractions.
I like that. So does that mean that you shouldn't be looking at your phone either while you're eating? Oh my goodness, Taylor, I don't know if I can do that. But
Hey,
it would be
10
it would be
minutes of
worth a
it.
try. It would be
Yeah.
worth a try, yeah, for 10 minutes to just sit there and eat
If
and just take in your thoughts and
if,
yeah.
if your phone is going to give you anxiety, or you're thinking about that text, like, and that's something that I don't know if we talked about in previous podcasts maybe, but just trying to kind of get away from technology a bit in
I don't
terms,
know if we have talked about that.
maybe in the
Did we?
self-love, but
Did
like
we? Okay.
perhaps again, that was like a month ago we recorded it, but uh yeah, kind of like that. But the whole reason, the logic behind getting away from technology is it kind of keeps us in that go 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 state, because when we're with our phone, we're going to be connected to the world, we're going to get, you know tweet kind of like, oh, something just came out, or and us, we want to know, like
Yeah.
people like you and I were like, yep, what is it, right away.
Yeah.
But it can make us excited, maybe it makes us stress, maybe it makes us anxious. And now that different nervous system that's all about the fight or flight, which is there for you to fight or flight, well, when you're sitting and trying to digest food, you don't need to be activating like that part of your body.
You're
So
so right.
again, it's hard, but it's like, hey, try it once, or like try to do it like once a week, like just, it's about slowly like integrating it and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, and that's the key is that you can try it once and see how it goes
Yep.
and how you like it. And it may take a while for you to get used to. So if you kind of like it or it's something new, why not keep trying it? So no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was something that it's taken me about 2 years to be able to do, to be honest, because I know like I learned that first week of first year, and I'm like, no way I'm doing that. No,
It's
no way I'm
hard.
not watching Netflix and eating my food. Like I gotta
Yeah.
stay up to date with my like episodes and stuff. But
I don't even know if the trashy reality TV that I like will be as good without my junk food, you know? It probably will be, but in my
yeah,
mind, I'm like, I turn it on and
it's
I'm
still
like,
that
I got to
guilty
make myself
pleasure.
something.
Yeah, it's still
Exactly.
that
Both
guilty
are guilty
pleasure.
pleasures, but I don't feel too guilty about
No, 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 exactly.
it. I love that. And I think another thing that you mentioned, I can't remember if I've mentioned it already, but the key of uh connecting with your inner child in a way, right?
Mm,
Is that the right terminology? It was like
yeah,
connecting with your inner child as far
you're-
as like how you were as a kid and how you remember you were and the passions that you had and
yeah. It's about like kind of still remembering to play, and that
still
word.
remembering to play. Okay.
Yeah, but I think what you just said is an even better interpretation of it. Like connecting to that inner child of, hey, when I was just dancing there, that's me connecting to my inner child. Like
And
that's
yeah,
like, you see those kids that don't care about who's watching them or who's around them. They don't have that bias, or they don't have that kind of like, oh, someone's watching me and now I need to act a certain way. They do what they want. And,
yeah,
and I remember when we were discussing this prior, I was kind of saying, like, I've noticed at those water parks, you get, obviously all the kids playing, but I've seen like young adults in there in the water park playing with their kids. I'm like, they're enjoying that. Like, yes, they're doing it because their kids are there and that, but like, there's a part of them that's helping them connect back to their inner child,
yeah,
remembering to play. Because what is adulthood? Like, we think it's serious. We think it has to be like no fun, no play. The only way to succeed is to like be stressed all the time, or not that, but the only way to succeed is to like be constantly going. But we need to take breaks to like kind
yeah.
of keep playing. And I think that what you said is a really good way of like embracing that inner child.
Well, yeah, and it's true. And I think that, going through life like that where there's no fun at all, I mean, I think, like I was saying to you before, I think there's a balance where obviously in your career, you want to focus on doing well, and there are going to be long, long days at times. And, sometimes you want to put in that extra effort and prove what you're made of. And you know it's going to take some work, right? Like as a kid you don't have any responsibilities. Even in university I found, yeah, there's some stresses, but I could have a nap at 3 in the afternoon and not have to feel judged at all. And then I could go out later that night. I did so many essays the night before, like, and then you get older and you're like, that isn't very attainable, or that isn't very what's the word when continue it
Yeah,
on,
it's just not realistic.
sustainable. it's not
Sustainable. You
it's
don't
not
think it's realistic to like what a real adulthood type life is. You're like, I can't do that. There's no way.
Exactly. You realize pretty quickly that it's not sustainable. So
Mm,
I think
yeah,
that there's obviously a balance, but I think you're so right. Have that time to yourself where you're just focused on what makes you happy. And maybe that's calling a friend. Maybe that's going on a walk. Maybe that's dancing around your condo, apartment, or house, or your residence. And
yeah.
I think that, like, just like how we just saw you dance in your residence room, that was amazing. I think that it's
Oh,
important. No, I love it. I
yeah,
know. We just got
yeah,
to play it on loop.
exactly. Okay. Now you're pushing it. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought of a topic that
Mm,
I think ties into growing up as an adult, but how do you respond to conflict? Like, how do you
yeah,
respond to a moment where maybe it's a friend or maybe it's a significant other that you have some kind of disagreement with? How do you respond to that? Because I feel as though, when I was growing up, I would respond right away. And it would be like, I wouldn't even think about biting my tongue. I would just respond right away. And obviously everyone has moments. I probably still have moments like that. But I feel like as I've gotten older, you just realize that it's like, it's not even worth it. Like it's better to take a step back
yeah.
or try to talk it through if you can in the moment. But other than that, sometimes time is just the thing that you need to be able to heal an argument or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And I think time is a big part of it. Like patience is a virtue. Like that patience, you don't have that as a child. And only kind of when you're given responsibilities as an adult and you learn that things don't come right away. There's not instant gratification. You help to build that patience, but our patience is always being tested. Our
Yeah.
patience is in many different ways. But I think to respond to that conflict question, one thing I would say is don't fight fire with fire. And I
Mm-hmm.
think as a child, we're really quick to blame others and not take onus of it on our own, and then maybe scream back at our parents or
Yeah.
some sort of that you're fighting fire with fire. And hey, there's a lot of adults that don't take responsibility they don't take onus of that was their fault. So I think the best way to go about it when you're truly adulting, or whatever verbiage we're going to use,
Yeah.
is taking responsibility that whenever there's a conflict, it takes two to tango. So it's always maybe reflecting on what you were responsible in that conflict, because there's never a one way street. And when you say it's completely their fault, when you completely put the fault on the other person because of the conflict, well, that's not really responsible. That's not really
Yeah.
being aware of it. But within that, you need patience to be able to do that. You need patience to be able to tell yourself to take the time of, I'm not going to respond right now, because I know if I do, it's going to be emotional, and then I'm going to get an emotional response back, and it's just going to go nowhere. So that is true in any kind of adulting, like adulthood type situation. As we grow up, there's going to be conflict. And so I think patience, time heals all, as they say. That's like the great grandmother wisdom of someone, or the trees told us. I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah, time heals all. And I do truly believe that. And so in order for time to heal, you need to have that patience. But that's so hard. And me even saying this, I feel hypocritical, because I know, patience is something that I've had to practice so much. But
Yeah.
it's I think that's the best way to try and answer that. I don't know, what do you think for the conflict?
I agree. I think that the moments where it's just like, you know what, I'm not even gonna text back right now, or something is upsetting me and I just need to go on a walk, or I need to listen to music, or I'm just upset, so I'm just not gonna respond at all. I find that sometimes then when you go away for a day and you come back, you're like, why was I even upset? You know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, that was kind of like silly, like obviously there's two people, but like at the same time, sometimes you're like, yeah, it's probably better that I didn't respond because everything worked out. I was overthinking it. So I think it goes back to what you're saying about like putting technology away, and like,
Yeah.
if you can, just like going on a walk, or just like having a meal where it's just you and the food. And I think that stepping away from it, you're right, is key. And yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about that, and we're kind of on the topic of responsibilities, and something I'll give a shout out to my classmate and friend Mike Tung, asking him about, what do you think adulthood is? And
Hi,
something,
Mike.
hey Mike,
Hi, Mike.
something he said is, embracing responsibility. And in so
Hmm.
many ways of, when you go off to university for the first time and you're completely on your own and you're hours away from your parents, and you have to cook your own meals, make your own bed, do your own laundry, sort your own garbage, which not enough people do. uh, but all those things are responsibilities that are now put on you. And in order to achieve adulthood and maturity, you have to embrace them. And
Yeah.
that can be uncomfortable. And so I think that's a big thing of what is adulthood. It's about embracing those responsibilities that are put upon us, either university, like maybe a family member got sick, and now all of a sudden we have all this like ownership and responsibility of other family members that they were in charge of. And so there's so many aspects, but the main thing that underlying is like having that responsibility, but being willing to embrace it.
I've never, sorry for anyone that's going to judge out there, but I've never been the making a bed person. I know you mentioned it, and my friend said recently that you should make your bed every day. He heard that somewhere, read it somewhere. It helps with your day. I get it, right? And there are times where I do it, and it's nice to come home with a made bed. I get all the value of it, but I just never got in the habit of it. Maybe one day I'll get into it. It'll be part of my new responsibilities, like we're
Yeah.
talking about. But that's just an example where, because I'd always lived with family and just had my room as my space, and now I have a condo that's a 1 bedroom. My room, I mean, I don't want you to see it right now, but like there's some clothes on the ground. I try to keep it pretty clean, but it's funny because then the whole kitchen area, the whole living room area, the bathroom, everything I keep like so immaculate and like clean. And it's interesting because until you end up getting more responsibilities like we're talking about as an adult, you don't realize that. And then you're like, you're proud of yourself because you're like, wow, like exactly, like this is adulting and I think I'm doing okay. And you learn. And I never realized that I need a broom, I need a Swiffer, and I need a vacuum. I'm like, I thought I'd be fine with just a Swiffer. Nope, I need a vacuum too. Okay, I thought I'd be fine with those two. Nope, I need a broom as well, and a pan. And it's like all these things that happen. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, is this what adults have to deal with?
Yeah.
you know?
And I think, I think day by day is what it is. But I mean, I think that's what you've been doing is you've just been trying to take it day by day. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, today I got a vacuum, and okay, tomorrow I'm going to have to get a broom because
Yeah.
now there's all these other things. So it's the best thing to do is like taking those responsibilities day by day. And, even though I'm living in a house now, or I mean, a residence now, I remember living in student housing in my undergrad
That's
and
right.
having to clean the kitchen, living with 5 other guys. And boys can be messy, as some of you may have heard. And so, yeah, like there is a lot of that responsibility that I think kind of made me grow up a bit, where I'm just going to take charge and just do it. That's the type of person I am, where
Yeah.
I don't mind. For me, I need to cook with a clean space. So I would wash my roommate's dishes and
Really.
clean them and dry them and put them away because I needed to have a clean sink to be able to wash what I was using to cook in afterwards. But because that's what I need, I was doing that, and I wasn't going to try and, some obviously they would clean after themselves, but just like anything, people, school, you get really caught up in stuff that you forget those things. And I'm not gonna be a parent to them. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
tell them what to do. So sometimes I would just go ahead and do that. But I feel that kind of helped me, thrust me into kind of like knowing, oh, it's not fun. It's when because of how I live and what I need now, I kind of know. And you need to put that effort in. And yeah, it's just kind of a day by day thing, embracing those responsibilities as they come. But I guess it's also having that mindset, having that problem solving type of mindset that I think you gain as you live on your own, as you are faced with challenges that you never had in a secure home with your
Yeah.
parents or grandparents or whoever you grew up with that was taking care of you. And they were embracing those responsibilities. They
You're
were
right.
embracing the hydro bill
Yeah.
and and just the different things that I think that is a big part of what adulthood is just taking day by day, but having that mindset to, I can do this. It's not going to be fun, but I can do this. And that's really important for sure.
I appreciate that because you're right. Even though it's not always fun, it's like you just gotta do it. And I
Yep.
think that sounds like that's how you are. You just gotta do it, and that's how I'm becoming. I mean, taking it day by day, but it's right. It's like, well, if you don't do it, who's gonna do it? But I mean, obviously, living with family, a lot of that stuff gets done. And then
Yep.
university, okay, well now you have to do laundry, and I forgot about that you lived with 5 other guys. That's so true. You have more experience with that world than I do, and I'm
Mhm.
older, I'm a year older, but I never had that because I lived in residence, because I
Mhm.
was a residence assistant. So I could go to the cafeteria and get my meal plan, get my meals made. And there was a cleaning person that cleaned my bathroom and vacuumed the halls and did all these things. So all I had to do was make my bed, which I didn't do. And and then I lived with my grandparents where, a lot of stuff was done as well.
Yeah.
So this is my first time that I'm really experiencing it. And there is a little bit of a sense of like ownership and freedom that comes with it. I find like keeping your place nice and having friends over and them comment on like, oh, they like it, or it's such a nice place and things like that, where it's like, okay, like I'm doing something right. I'm learning that I need like 3 different things, a Swiffer, a vacuum, and a broom, but it makes it all worth it, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, you get
So
it. You get that kind of pat yourself on the back feeling at the end of the day of, okay, I just met these challenges that I didn't know of. I wasn't aware of prior to
yes.
this. And then because of who you are, your intellect, your own responsibility that your parents, the people around you have helped ingrained in you, you had that mindset and were able to meet those challenges and accomplish them. And then that just only kind of positive feedback loop helps you go further. And now, okay, dealing with my hydro bill and everything else that kind of goes in, insurance, taxes, all
Yeah.
these things that in high school we don't think about, or even
Or learn,
university,
or really learn,
or learn. I know that's a
at
that's
least
a
when we
whole
were
other,
in
that's a
high
whole other
school.
podcast.
Yeah.
What's with this education system? No, but no. I mean, obviously, there's going to be lapse in all of that, and I know they have been changing the education system.
Yeah.
I remember because of my experience living with like you know housemates and other people. Home ec is a course in high school that is an elective, and sometimes people look at it as kind of like, oh, that's an easy course. I think home ec should be required. I think
Me
that should be
too.
mandatory. I
Me
think we should
too.
all gain those cooking skills because, adulthood, cooking is really important, and food prep. And it's so easy to go out and get those fast food or order Uber Eats now that it's in on our phone, and it's literally, yeah, no, don't worry, we all do
I
it,
just covered my face because
but
I haven't checked that box off in adulthood yet. The
hey,
cooking.
that's okay. That's okay. That's something that I think because of my program and the people around me, and it's so nutrition based that I go
Yeah.
out in like the communal kitchen, and these upper years are cooking these like balanced meals. I'm like, hey, I need to start adding more veggies to my. Okay, I can't just have rice and chicken. I need to like have a little broccoli on the side, or
Yeah.
having a more balanced diet. But that's something that I think is a whole other step of adulthood is the
Right.
food and cooking for ourselves. And something I know, and I'm sure this is maybe why you can attest to why you haven't checked that box off. And I love cooking personally, and I hate starting to cook though. Like
Yeah.
the actual energy and thought it takes to start cooking and prep, and I gotta cut up onions,
Yes.
and I gotta cut up and I gotta prep for it. Now because I've been doing it more better the last couple years, like I started in my undergrad and 2 years of being in school here, I tried to cook a lot of my meals and like kind of meal prep, which is so hard to get to. But even then, and even though once I'm cooking, I'm like, I do like this, I know, and still have that like I hate to start it. And then I
Yeah.
think that's what kind of stops so many people from doing it because it just, I don't know if it's this lazy mindset we all have. I don't want to say lazy, that's such a negative word, but I have it too, where I just don't want to start it. And even had this conversation with my girlfriend over the weekend when I was over there, and we like to cook meals together. But it's funny, I'm like, I realize there's this honest, like almost an energy gap that you need to like push through. And it takes a lot of energy to push through that to be able to start cooking. But I think that's a big thing that maybe, again, it's uncomfortable. We've been used to it. In your undergrad, even throughout the years, you're a residence advisor. So you're going to the cafeteria, that instant gratification that I have to prepare for 20 minutes. No,
Yeah.
I want to eat right now. like,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is that it is that instant gratification. And I think for me, it's like when I'm hungry, I just want to eat something. And I don't feel as passionate about prepping and putting it together. Like Katie Jones, she loves to cook. Like she enjoys doing it. She tells me about, oh, I did this, or I cooked this and I did that. And it's one of those things where like I just don't feel passionate about cooking. Maybe if I got more into it, I would, and I don't think I'd be bad at it. But
yeah,
even for me, it's like oh, like, did you cook? Well, I put something frozen into the oven and heated it up. To me, like, it's like, okay. Or like, I just recently learned how to grill. Someone taught me
Yeah.
how to grill. My friend taught me how to grill, and that felt like a big deal because it was always done, for me by my mom. And so it's or my grandpa. And it's one of those things where like learning that felt good because it's like, okay, this isn't that bad. And it does feel kind of good to have like a fresh, nice burger that I made rather than getting it from a restaurant. So I'm making some progress. Not there yet, but I can appreciate why people enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
I get it.
No, yeah, and oh, grilling. I love to grill. I wish I could have a grill on the patio, and that's
Yeah.
but not having a house or even living in a condo. It's like whenever I go back to my parents' house, and they're maybe cooking dinner, I'm like, can I cook the burgers? Because I just kind of miss that sometimes. It is, but I think you're right. It's kind of having that I cook this, and something I always said, and I only realized this in university when I started cooking those meals for myself, is the food tastes better, to be honest. I
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got of, even if I'm eating at home and I eat a meal that we always eat all the time and I kind of am tired of it. Well, if I go and cook that meal on my own, I'm going to gobble it up. I'm going to be like, this is so good. And maybe it's kind of that self gratification of,
Yeah.
wow, I made this. So for all you listeners out there, that yeah, it's easy to put the frozen food in the oven. That is still a form of cooking. Maybe add a little extra things on it over top.
Okay.
You can always like add fresh veggies to cut up, put on that frozen pizza that you have, or kind of adding little seasoning like oregano or something to kind of jazz it up, and that can just be the start. And then maybe it hopefully inspires to kind of further it. And I started slow. It's been, 8 years, 7, 8 years of me kind of cooking on my own. Of
Yeah,
course, going back home for the summer, it's a bit different, but
of
still
course.
being on my own. That it started off with, my first main meal was like a chicken breast with like sweet potatoes and rice, but that's carbs on protein. There's no, like, you do get complex carbs with the sweet potatoes. It's somewhat veggies, but you want to add some green, you want some color in that meal, and so, but I cooked that for, it's a healthy meal. And that was something that I looked up online, and just look up online, great recipes. It's so simple. You just look up the recipes online, and usually it's like 10, 15 minutes to prep, like 20 minutes to cook. And it's just about
It's not too
prepping.
bad.
But before you get that, like, kind of knowing I'm going to get hungry a bit, maybe I should start prepping now.
Yeah.
No,
No,
it's
that's true to
hard.
plan
It's
it
hard.
out. But I love how you mentioned frozen pizza. I feel like you just know me so well. It's like you're putting in a frozen pizza. I mean, you're right. You're right. So
But that's what
so
most people, it's a good, I love frozen pizza. I'll still buy frozen pizza because, like,
yeah,
exam time or anything, when I'm like, this is a busy day, cool, pop in a frozen pizza.
love it. But spice it up a bit,
Yeah.
literally or figuratively.
And yeah,
So I feel like we've covered a lot in this episode. I was wondering, was there anything else that you wanted to mention on the topic of this is adulthood?
adulthood. I know. And I know this is like more of a fun episode, or just kind of like, ad-libbing a bit. And I always try not to get too philosophical, which I love to. You just know me. I love to
Oh
kind of
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
delve into that. But I think, like, kind of to end it on a more positive note, and kind of talking at the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, there can be an ugly side of adulthood where we get pushed down. And
Hmm.
this really cool story that I heard recently, and it's about, this donkey that is kind of put in the donkey is like, kind of has a broken leg. It's not really working anymore. The farmer kind of puts it in the well, and they're pretty much trying to like bury it alive in a sense, which is really sad. But every time they put dirt into the well, the donkey steps up onto that dirt, and they keep putting dirt, and the donkey
Oh,
keeps stepping up and stepping up until soon it's at the same level of the well and it walks right off. And I think that's
wow.
a nice story, that it's about, when we get pushed down, as we will in life, in adulthood, with so many things, about pushing back up, like not letting that dirt pile over top of us, stepping over it and moving up. And it can be slowly, it can be one step at a time. And that was a really cool story I heard last week that I thought I wanted to bring to here. But it's just about when you're pushed down, like, don't forget to push back up. And with everything we've talked about, the mindset, the meditation, the exercise, the eating, it helps give you that confidence, the power to kind of push yourself back up and get up so that you don't get buried in that well of adulthood. And then one day you'll be at ground level and you'll be off on your ways, and it'll be
Wow.
more smooth sailing. But yeah, I think that's a good positive way to end it.
What a great way to end this episode, because it's so true. It's like, I feel like those are the things that happen as you're growing up, as you're becoming an adult. And, I think that it comes a point where you do get to the top of the well and you can walk off and continue and enjoy life. And I don't think you have to always be stepping over things. I mean, once in a while, maybe once you're out of the well, you still have to encounter things on your path to success or your path to happiness or your path to love, whatever that may be. But I think the if people are trying to bring you down, or just like metaphorically things are starting to bring you down, I think that that's such a good analogy, where it's just like, keep on going, take it day by day, realize that it's not always going to be perfect, and just realizing that there is something out there for you. There is a plan. If you're religious, like I pray to God. I believe God has a plan for me. And I think that just having that hope and being positive, even when you feel like you can't be positive, and obviously you're going to have negative moments, but trying overall to remain positive, I feel like will get you through it.
Love it.
Love it. And I love always chatting with you, Taylor Blix.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Remind the listeners and the viewers where they can find you on social media.
So I am on Facebook and Instagram, just Taylor Blix, TaylorBlixt. Hey, shoot me a message, tell me what you think, and also follow This Is Adulthood, and Ryan will give you those.
Yeah, the Instagram for Is This Adulthood is This Adulthood. Pretty easy, right? Is This Adulthood on Instagram.
Yep, I like
and
it.
Then on Twitter, it's ITA_podcast. And then my Instagram is @RyanDurgy, RyanDurgy, and the same on Twitter. Thanks for listening to another episode. I can't wait for us to do another one, Taylor. And I can't wait to, once again, meet up and have drinks and wings and all of that in person. But until then, this will just have to do.
Thank you for having me again. I'm looking forward to the next one, and I hope the listeners are as well.
Can't wait.